Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Classics with Courtney. And today I'm going to talk about the 1940 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. Directed by Robert Z. Leonard and starring Greer Garson as Elizabeth Bennet, Laurence Olivier as Mr. Darcy, and Maureen O'Sullivan as Jane Bennet. Our story opens with the Bennet ladies in town when the new visitors come and catch the attention of the Bennets.
Did you see them? Of course we saw them. Who are they, sister?
They're the new tenants of Netherfield Park.
Netherfield Park is let at last.
And to a young man of importance. His name is Bingley.
Is the young woman Mrs. Bingley?
No, dear. That's the pleasantest part of it. She's his sister.
She's his sister, Lizzie. Who's the other gentleman, Aunt Phillips?
Oh, I don't know, some friend, I suppose. Oh, but let me tell you about Mr. Bingley. He's very rich. He has £5,000 a year.
Who is this Mr. Darcy? He's Mr. Bingley's guest. They're inseparable friends. He's one of the Darcys of Pemberley. Oh, Mr. Darcy of Pemberley. Is that all you know about him? Well, oh, you mean is he married? No, dear, no, he isn't married. And he's even richer than Mr. Bingley. The Pemberley estates alone are worth a clear 10,000 a year. 10,000?
Look, Mamma, Lady Lucas's carriage.
Past them, Higgins, past them.
Overtake them, Jennings, overtake them! That's it, Jennings! That's it!
That'll teach her a lesson. You must go and see Mr. Bingley. If you don't, Sir William and Lady Lucas will get there before us. You should have seen her galloping her horses to beat me from the village just now.
Did she win?
Indeed she did not.
I love that subtle little look that Mr. Bennet gives when he asks his wife if Charlotte's family won the race, and Mrs. Bennet's like, no. Mr. Bennet here is played by Edmund Gwenn, who is best known for playing Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street in 1947. He would actually win an Oscar for his portrayal of Kris Kringle. After a bit of complaining from Mrs. Bennet, everyone finally hears that their father, Mr. Bennet, had already made Mr. Bingley's acquaintance a week before he arrived and had invited him to the assembly ball, which of course pleases the ladies.
Want me to meet Mr. Bingley?
Don't speak about Mr. Bingley. I'm sick of him.
Eh? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, my dear. If I'd known that you'd feel like this, I shouldn't have gone out of my way to make his acquaintance last week. Oh, it's very unlucky. I even gave him tickets to the assembly ball.
No.
And I believe he intends to make himself known to you there.
Mr. Bennet, you've been acquainted with him all the time.
Since he signed his lease at Netherfield, my dear.
Oh, Papa. I told him that you had 5 daughters, Papa.
Well, I told him if he ran into 5 of the silliest girls in England, they would be my daughters.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Bingley, Mr. Bingley, and Mr. Darcy.
This is indeed an honor.
Mr. Bingley, played by Bruce Lester, becomes acquainted with Jane while Darcy examines the room with his snobbery air.
Darcy! Come, I hate to see you stalking about by yourself in this stupid manner. Why don't you dance?
With whom? Your sister is engaged, and there isn't another woman in the room that it wouldn't be a punishment for me to stand up with.
But there's that sister of hers, Miss Elizabeth. They say she has quite a lively wit.
A provincial young lady with a lively wit. Heaven preserve us. And there's that mother of hers.
It's not the mother you have to dance with, Darcy. It's the daughter. She's charming.
Yeah, she looks tolerable enough. But I'm in no humor tonight to give consequence to the middle classes at play.
Of all the arrogant, detestable snobs.
Oh, but Lizzie, he didn't know you were listening.
What difference does that make? He'd have said it just the same if he had. Oh, she looks tolerable enough. But I'm in no humor tonight to give consequence to the middle classes at play.
May I hope that you will do me the honor?
I am afraid that the honor of standing up with you, Mr. Darcy, is more than I can bear. Pray excuse me.
Am I to understand that you do not wish to dance with me, Miss Bennet?
Sir, I am begging to be excused.
You're not engaged. Will you honor me with the next dance?
I shall be very happy to dance with you. Oh, this is Mr. Wickham, Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy and I have met before.
We have indeed.
So considering the year it came out, when the time came out, I can mostly overlook a lot of the flaws this movie has. If you look at it from an adaptation standpoint, it has its problems. However, this is one scene I'm not a fan of. They just kind of make Lizzie more of a jerk here in this particular moment. And I get it. As the audience member, we know that she heard Mr. Darcy say that she was basically not worth his time, and that she's of middle class and he's higher than her. So we can understand why she refused him. However, the fact that she does refuse him and then Wickham comes up just literally moments later and she accepts him in front of Darcy, it just makes her look kind of petty, I think. And I'm not saying that you couldn't have had the rejection. They did that in the A&E miniseries with Colin Firth, where, you know, what's his face? Charlotte's dad. The name eludes me right now. But when he brings Lizzie over and she says, please don't suppose that I moved this way in order to beg for a partner. And he says, well, I'd be happy to dance with you. And she says, thank you, but I'm not inclined to dance. You still could have had that moment, but the minute you brought Wickham out and she says, oh, I'll gladly dance with you. I don't know. I just didn't like the way that moment played out. Jane gets an invitation to Netherfield, and while a rainstorm brews, Mrs. Bennet convinces Jane to ride horseback, then carriage. That way she can spend the night. Jane gets sick, and Elizabeth goes and tends to her.
Please forgive me, Miss Bingley. I'm afraid it's a great intrusion. My uneasiness about my sister must be my excuse.
It's just a little cold, that's all.
Ah, but Dr. McIntosh says there's some fever.
It doesn't amount to anything, nothing to get agitated about.
Is it shocking for a young lady to be concerned about her sister?
But to have come all this way unaccompanied, and on foot.
Mr. Bingley, would it be possible for me to see Jane?
At once. I'll take her up myself.
No one can really be esteemed accomplished unless she has a thorough knowledge of music, singing, dancing, and the modern languages. Besides, she must also possess a certain something in the tone of her voice, in her address, in her expressions, as well as in her figure and carriage.
To which you must add something more substantial in the improvement of her mind by extensive reading.
I'm no longer surprised at your knowing only 6 accomplished women. I wonder at your knowing any.
Why disclaim punishment, Miss Elizabeth, when you're deliberately inflicted by leaving us so soon?
If my departure is any punishment, Mr. Darcy, you are quite right. My character reading is not too brilliant. Good night, sir.
After Jane returns home, the Bennets meet their cousin, Mr. Collins, played by Melville Cooper, who is to inherit their house after Mr. Bennet's passing.
She advised me to marry as soon as I could, and actually promised to call upon my wife. Provided, of course, I chose with discretion. The difficulty now is one of choice. I think perhaps Miss Jane.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Mr. Collins, but Jane is practically engaged. We are expecting a proposal any moment now.
Well, then, Miss Elizabeth. That is, if there's no prior claim.
Oh, none? None that we know of.
The Bingleys hold a party, and Lizzie has a chat with Mr. Darcy.
Next time I talk to a young lady about archery, I wouldn't be so patronizing. Yes. Thank you for the lesson.
Thank you for taking it so well. Most men would have been offended, and rightly. And now may I ask you a question, Mr. Darcy?
By all means.
What would you think of a man who had everything the world has to offer? Birth, breeding, wealth, good looks, even charm when he chose to exercise it. What would be your opinion of a man with such gifts who refused to accept an introduction to another man who was poor and of no consequence.
I should reserve my opinion until I knew the circumstances of the particular case.
I always found George Wickham to be a man of absolutely no principle. But there, what can you expect of one of his low descent?
I will tell you exactly what I expect. Kindness, honor, generosity, truthfulness. And I might add that I expect precisely the same from persons of high descent.
Elizabeth's sister Mary entertains the party with her singing, which doesn't please certain people, and Lizzie gets talked to by Caroline Bingley, which upsets her greatly. Unfortunately, the rest of the party becomes quite disagreeable for poor Lizzie.
Ah, Miss Elizabeth, allow me to congratulate you.
On what?
On your family, of course. A talented young singer, a cousin distinguished for his wit and learning, 2 young sisters with a toast of the officers' mess, a mother who's a most diverting conversationalist, to say nothing of your own dexterity with bow and arrow. Such an interesting, accomplished family.
Miss Elizabeth, I'm afraid something has happened to disturb you.
Nothing at all, thank you.
Are you sure there's nothing I can do?
You can leave me to make a fool of myself alone, if you don't mind.
It's hard to imagine you making a fool of yourself.
Well, I do frequently. Isn't that what I was doing this afternoon?
I rather admired what you did this afternoon, Miss Elizabeth. Your resentment at what you believed to be an injustice showed courage and loyalty. I could wish that I might possess a friend who would defend me as ably as Mr. Wickham was defended today. Shall we not call quits and start again? Shall we?
I must insist that you look at Jane and Mr. Bingley. The dear boy makes no secret of his admiration. And the week she was ill here at Netherfield completed the conquest. I knew it would. Wasn't it clever of me to send her over in the rain? And of course, dear Jane will see that the other girls have an opportunity of meeting all sorts of rich young men.
Such a gay dance for real.
Won't you allow me to take you in? I'm sure there must be many young men who are eager to dance it with you.
Ah, Miss Elizabeth, do you recall the first dance? Ah, sir, will you please accept the humble apology of one who's only just learned that you are the nephew of my esteemed patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh?
Indeed.
You will be happy to learn that when I left her 2 weeks ago, your gracious aunt was enjoying the best of health.
The following day, Mr. Collins requests a moment alone with Lizzie, which her mama agrees to, much to Elizabeth's dismay.
I have singled you out as the companion of my future life. Please, before my feelings run away with me, let me state my reasons for marrying. First, I regard it as the duty of every gentleman in easy circumstances to marry. Secondly, I'm convinced it'll add greatly to my happiness. And thirdly, I think it only right that since I am to inherit your father's estate, I should try and keep it in the family. And fourthly, it is the particular wish of that very noble lady whom I have the honor to call my patroness, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. These, dear Miss Elizabeth, are my motives.
Why, you are too hasty, sir. You forget that I have made no answer. Let me do so at once. I appreciate the honor of your proposal.
Oh, my dear Miss Elizabeth.
But I must decline with thanks.
I understand, my dear Miss Elizabeth, that it is a delicate and charming custom of young ladies to say no when they mean yes, even to 3 and 4 refusals. I am therefore by no means discouraged by what you have said.
Upon my word, sir, you are very hard to discourage.
Ah, my dear.
Mr. Collins, you have made your offer. I have refused it. You can therefore take possession of this estate without the least compunction or self-reproach whenever it falls to you.
Indeed, I trust I have every reason for joy. Of course, I know that my cousin's refusal naturally springs from her bashful modesty.
Refusal? With Lizzie, that does not mean bashful modesty. But never mind, Mr. Collins. She's a very foolish, headstrong girl and does not know her own interests.
Foolish? Headstrong? Oh, dear me. Well, those failings will not make her a very desirable wife.
Oh, but you quite misunderstand, Mr. Collins. Lizzie is only headstrong in matters such as these. You just wait, Mr. Collins. Mr. Bennet always brings her to reason. Tell her you insist upon her marrying him.
Lizzie?
Yes, Papa.
Your mother insists that you accept Mr. Collins. Isn't that so, Mrs. Bennet?
Or else I shall never see her again.
An unhappy alternative is before you, Elizabeth. Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins. And I will never see you again if you do.
dear Papa. Oh.
I recently just revisited this book in audio version for work, and I love that they kept the dialogue in that moment where Mr. Collins thinks that she's bluffing, and Mrs. Bennet's like, no, she is headstrong. When she refuses you, she means it. And he's like, wait, she's headstrong? Oh no, that's not good to be good. That's pretty accurate to the book. So I'm glad they actually kept that in. I must admit I've only seen the A&E version, but let me know in the comments below if any other adaptation has ever kept that moment in. Mrs. Bennet and the girls become downhearted when they hear word that Bingley's left Netherfield for London, and Mr. Wickham, played by Edward Ashley Cooper, pays a visit.
Yes?
Good news indeed.
Well?
Mr. Darcy has left Netherfield.
So I hear.
Miss Elizabeth, having confided so much of my story to you, I'd like you to understand the rest. Would it bore you?
No, on the contrary, I'm deeply interested.
How kind and sympathetic you are. Would it surprise you to learn that I was once intended for the church, Miss Elizabeth?
Really? Oh, you seem so well fitted for the army.
I have no taste for soldiering. The church ought to have been my profession, and would have been, if Mr. Darcy hadn't chosen to disregard his father's will.
Disregard a will? He should be publicly exposed.
Not by me, Miss Elizabeth. While I remember the father, I could never bring myself to disgrace the son.
After hearing of Mr. Collins' engagement to her best friend Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth visits them both in Hunsford, where she meets Lady Catherine de Bourgh, played by Edna May Oliver, and runs into Mr. Darcy.
You know, Miss Elizabeth, I have thought a great deal of what you said to me at Netherfield that day. Thank you. About laughing more. I've tried to follow your advice.
I hope it worked. Do you feel happier now?
I've never felt more miserable in my life.
It's doubtless the lack of exercise. You'll feel happier when the hunting season begins.
Do you draw, Miss Bennet?
No, Lady Catherine.
What? None of you?
Not one of us.
But how strange. Why didn't your governess see to that?
We never had a governess.
No governess? Are any of your younger sisters out in society?
All of them.
All? Oh, very odd.
Oh, really, Lady Catherine, I think it would be very hard on younger sisters to be kept without society or amusement until the elder ones were married. It would hardly promote sisterly affection or even delicacy of mind.
A rich assortment of music here. My aunt means quite kindly, Miss Elizabeth. Her manner is sometimes a little unfortunate.
Having already met you, I was happily prepared for your aunt's manner.
The following morning, Mr. Darcy pays a visit to a reluctant Lizzie.
Lizzie, what's happened? What's come over you? Do you want to know the real reason why Mr. Bingley left Netherfield for London? His High Mightiness, Mr. Darcy.
But I thought it was Caroline Bingley.
She was only half the reason. I've just heard about it by chance this very moment from Colonel Fitzwilliam.
Colonel Fitzwilliam?
Of course, he didn't know I was Jane's sister. He was just holding forth about the virtues of his precious cousin, telling me how unselfish he was and what an infinite amount of trouble he'd gone to save his friend Bingley from an impossible marriage.
It's no use. I've struggled in vain. I must tell you how much I admire and love you. Miss Elizabeth, my life and happiness are in your hands. These last weeks since I left Netherfield have been empty, meaningless days and nights. I thought I could put you out of my mind, that inclination would give way to judgment. I walked the streets of London, reminding myself of the unsuitability of such a marriage, of the obstacles between us. But it won't do. I can struggle against you no longer.
Mr. Darcy!
I've reminded myself again and again that I have obligations of family and position, obligations I was born to. Nothing I tell myself matters.
Do you expect me to thank you for this extraordinary offer of marriage? Am I supposed to feel flattered that you have so overcome your aversion to my family that you're ready to marry into it?
But do you expect me to be glad that your family is inferior to mine?
Oh, I suppose I should congratulate you on winning the battle between your unwilling affection and my unworthiness. But you see, I have never desired your good opinion. And if you were not so lacking in perception, you might have spared yourself my refusal.
Is this the only reply I'm to be honored with? I might perhaps deserve to be told why I am rejected, and with so little civility.
I also might deserve to know why, determined evidently to offend and insult me. You chose to tell me that you liked me against your will, against your reason, against even your character.
If the manner of my expression...
The manner of your proposal is only one reason for my incivility, if I have been uncivil. Do you think anything would tempt me to accept the man who has destroyed the happiness of my sister? The sweetest soul that ever lived. How could you do it? Knowing Jane, how could you hurt her so?
In observing them together, I could not believe that she really loved Charles.
But even without this, your character was clearly revealed in your treatment of Mr. Wickham.
You take an eager interest in that gentleman's concern.
Who that knows his misfortunes could fail to take an interest?
His misfortune.
Brought on by your injustice and betrayal.
Where Wickham is concerned, I have nothing to say.
In other words, you dare not speak because you know you're guilty. Your arrogance, your conceit, your selfish disregard of other people's feelings made me dislike you from the first. I hadn't known you a week before I decided you were the last man in the world I'd ever be prevailed upon to marry.
You've said quite enough, madam. I understand your feelings, and have now only to be ashamed of having confessed my own. Forgive me for having taken up so much of your valuable time. And accept my best wishes for your health and happiness.
The Collins drop Lizzie home, where Jane greets her with bad news of Lydia. While she's there, she hears Darcy arrived also and goes to see him.
Mr. Wickham. And they didn't go to Gretna Green. Lizzie, they're not married.
Not married?
And we can't find them anywhere.
Oh, Jane.
Mr. Darcy just called. I've shown him into the library.
Mr. Darcy?
Bad news travels fast, Miss Bennet. A few hours after you left Hunsford, I heard about George Wickham and your sister. I felt it my duty to come at once.
To triumph over us, I suppose.
I told you the other day that where George Wickham was concerned, I chose to be silent. What has happened to your sister has made me change my mind. You have a right to the truth. George Wickham will never marry your sister, Miss Bennet. Her case was not the first. My own sister, Georgiana.
Your sister?
Yes. She was younger even than Lydia. Georgiana has a considerable fortune in her own right. His plan was to elope with her, and then, under the threat of publishing her disgrace, to force my consent to their marriage. By the mercy of Providence, I discovered the plot in time. Your sister has been less fortunate. This is perhaps the last time I shall see you. God bless you, Elizabeth.
In the book, Mr. Darcy writes a letter dealing with both the accusations of his treatment to Wickham and his reasons for breaking up his friend Bingley and her sister Jane's relationship. In this version, we don't get a letter. We only get the one-on-one, and we don't hear the explanation about Bingley and Jane. We only hear about Wickham. However, despite that change, I actually kind of like how they did it here. It's nice that they did the letter part in the book and in other adaptations. Well, the A&E one. But this one actually shows Darcy becoming vulnerable with her. And I actually kind of like how they recorded that scene. It's just such a tender moment between the two, and I'm really glad it worked out the way it did. While the Bennets are talking of moving from Longbourn, they get news of Lydia, and other company decides to arrive.
Our Uncle Gardner, he's found Lydia.
He's found her.
Yes.
And Wickham asked for £1,000 at your death and £100 a year during your lifetime. These terms seemed moderate, and I took upon myself the responsibility of agreeing to them. He's agreed to Wickham's terms.
It's Lydia! They're married! Mama!
Married?
Mama! Mama! It's Lydia! They're married! What? They're married!
May I ask how you have suddenly become so rich, Mr. Wickham?
Well, it was quite a surprise. One of my uncles died a few weeks ago. An uncle I haven't seen since childhood. He'd been living in Jamaica. Yes, Jamaica.
And he left you a fortune?
Oh, a modest competence. But its coming was very timely. Very timely indeed.
Very timely.
Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
Lady Catherine! Lady Catherine, what an honor for this humble house.
No honor was intended, Mr. Collins.
Lady Catherine sits Lizzie down and confirms whether Mr. Darcy made an offer of marriage to her or not.
A report has reached me of a most alarming nature. I was told that you, Miss Elizabeth Bennet, were shortly to be engaged to my nephew, Mr. Darcy. Of course, I could not believe this report could possibly be true.
If it could not possibly be true, madam, I wonder you gave yourself the trouble of coming so far.
Once and for all, are you engaged to him?
No, I am not.
Ah. And will you promise me never to enter into such an engagement?
No, I will not.
Ah. So you do expect him to propose to you?
I have no right to expect anything. I can't imagine that he would be. Not now.
Then why his kind consideration for your sister? Was that the act of a man who isn't in love?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Possibly you don't, but that rascal Wickham does. Imagine it. My nephew Darcy, scouring the courts and alleys of London looking for him. Setting him up with an income. Forcing him to marry that silly little flibbertigibbet.
Did he do that? Oh, thank you for telling me, Lady Catherine. Goodbye, Lady Catherine.
I take no leave of you, Miss Bennet. I send no compliments to your mother. You deserve no such attention. I am seriously displeased.
She refused to see me.
She refused not to see you.
Did she?
Most emphatically. But that's not the worst, Darcy. I told her that I could strip you of your fortune if I chose to. But she refused to be the least bit impressed.
You see.
Yes, I see, Darcy. I grant I was wrong about that.
What? It was a setup?
I was traveling with my aunt, and I thought I would give myself the pleasure.
Jane! Jane! Mama, I can't find Jane anywhere. Oh.
How do you do, Miss Elizabeth?
How do you do?
I have a confession to make. I didn't tell the exact truth, I'm afraid, about the message from the Bingleys.
You mean they didn't send one?
They didn't send one for the good reason that Charles Bingley had every intention of bringing it himself.
Himself?
Yes, he came back to Netherfield last night. I was rather expecting to see him here this afternoon. Ah.
Darcy, this is your doing. I hardly know how to put it into words. What you did for Lydia.
But I assure you, I did nothing, Miss Bennet.
Lady Catherine was not of that opinion.
What? But I never gave her leave to tell you that.
Gave her leave? Do you mean to say that Lady Catherine...
I wanted to know if I would be welcome. She came as my ambassador.
Your ambassador? I never imagined that that was the language of diplomacy. I don't know what to say or think. Except that you must allow me to thank you for what you did for Lydia. And if the facts were known to the rest of my family, I should not merely have my own gratitude to express.
If you must thank me, let it be for yourself alone. Whatever I did, I thought only of you.
Oh, Mr. Darcy, when I think of how I've misjudged you, the horrible things I said, I'm so ashamed.
Oh, no, it's I who should be ashamed of my arrogance, of my stupid pride, of all, except one thing. One thing. I'm not ashamed of having loved you. Elizabeth, dare I ask you again?
Mr. Bennet.
Miracles will never cease, Mrs. Bennet.
Mr. Darcy, who would have believed it? Oh, my sweetest, sweetest Lizzie. What pin money she'll have, what jewels, what carriages. Jane's is nothing to it, absolutely nothing. Oh, and such a charming man. Mr. Bennet. Mr. Bennet.
Lie screaming
Look.
for bear. I charge you disturb not my slumbering fair.
Think of it, 3 of them married, and the other 2 just toppling off the brink.
And that was the 1940 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. I must say, I really like this adaptation. I grew up with the 95 A&E miniseries with Colin Firth, but I really like this one a lot. And I'm glad we got an old Hollywood adaptation that is just a lot of fun. I believe I actually started watching this movie when I started into my old Hollywood journey and started watching more older films, and I found out that this existed and I had to watch it. It's kind of similar to MGM's A Christmas Carol from 1938. It's cute, it's fluffy, it's not as dark as the actual source material. Granted, Pride and Prejudice is not quote-unquote dark, but it's more of a serious book, whereas this one is more of a comedy, but it still works. Despite the fact that I do like this movie, though, I do have to get into the positives and the negatives, and I'll go into the negatives first. Issue number 1. Why does everyone call her Miss Elizabeth? In the book, everyone calls her Miss Bennet, except the family. Everybody would call her Lizzie or Elizabeth, or her best friend would call her Lizzie or Elizabeth. But in this version, Mr. Bingley calls her Miss Elizabeth, Mr. Darcy calls her Miss Elizabeth, even Collins calls her Miss Elizabeth. In the miniseries, I can't remember what he calls her in the book, but in the miniseries at least, he calls her Cousin Elizabeth. Okay, that's fine, but why is everyone calling her Miss Elizabeth? 2. The costumes to this movie are not accurate to the actual story. However, the costumes have already been talked many, many times by other people, so I will not dwell on that. However, there is a reason why this was so. You gotta remember, the movie came out in 1940. What came out before then? Gone with the Wind, which was one of the biggest movies ever made at that point. So everyone wanted to jump on the bandwagon, so they changed the costumes to make it more of a Southern Belle look rather than a Jane Austen adaptation. Despite that, though, although the costumes to this movie are not always the best, I do like some of the costumes. My particular favorite being Elizabeth's dress that she wears during the final part of the film and the proposal that Mr. Darcy gives at the end, as well as the proposal moment in Hunsford. Laurence Olivier was great as Mr. Darcy. However, I hated that they made him too flighty. I can understand why most of the other characters could be like that. But Mr. Darcy is proud, but he's respectful, so to speak. Like, he's not wild or anything. But in this version, it's like, you know, the fact that he says that she's from the middle class and that he's not going to waste his time with her, and then the next moment he's asking Sir William Lucas to introduce him to her. It doesn't make sense. And I understand it's 1940, it's the movie, so they had to combine certain moments. But I don't know, you could have made the movie an extra 20 minutes and then not do that scene and then do another one. I don't know. But I don't know. He just came off a little bit too light. Just theatrical. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but there's moments like in the proposal scene, he's like begging her to sit, but the way he's moving his body, it's almost like he's on stage. And I understand he was a stage actor, but I noticed the film gets a little theatrical, especially with him in moments. Once again, Laurence Olivier was not happy of the casting of Greer Garson. From what I managed to find out, he thought she was too old for the part, and once again, he wanted Vivien Leigh. Look, enough already with the Vivien Leigh thing, okay? Does anyone know of any movie where Laurence Olivier was fine with the casting that did not include Vivien Leigh? First you had Rebecca, then you had Wuthering Heights, now Pride and Prejudice. Dude, you're working in the film industry. Your wife is not going to be able to make every single movie you make. Someone, please, give me a suggestion where Laurence Olivier did a movie with somebody and he was actually okay with the casting and did not care that Vivien Leigh did not get the role. While this is based on the Jane Austen classic book, this version is actually based on a stage play by Helen Jerome. Now let's dig into the positives. Greer, Lawrence, and Edmund Gwynn were all three British. So you have that bit of Jane Austen in the film because of them being British, which I find very, very interesting. And from them three, though, you have an incredible cast. Maureen O'Sullivan, who played Jane, was doing the Tarzan and Jane films, and I absolutely adore her in those movies. And May Oliver, who is one of the best character actresses of her time. You had Anne Rutherford, who is off the success of Gone with the Wind, and she makes a very likable Lydia. She's by far my favorite Lydia. And you have Martha Hunt as Mary, which is so funny because they make her so unattractive in this movie, but she was actually very attractive in real life. Fun trivia, at least for my opinion, is Mary Boland, who played Mrs. Bennet, was actually born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's my home state. So I found that to be quite interesting. Another thing I love about this movie is the ending. I love how they let all the girls have a man by the end of the story. I mean, you have Lydia, who married Mr. Wickham, and then you had Lizzie to Darcy and Jane to Bingley. But at the end of this adaptation, it ends with Mary with another musician of sorts, and then Kitty with, I believe, a soldier, which her mother says it's Denny. Okay, so it's nice that they actually end up with men at the end. I really love that. And despite Lady Catherine de Bourgh becoming an ambassador for Mr. Darcy, which is not in the book, I kind of like that moment though, because in the book, they do end up making things right between Mr. Darcy, Lizzie, and Lady Catherine de Bourgh. I mean, Lady Catherine basically cannot stand Lizzie after they get married, but Lizzie pursues and they end up becoming more of a family by the end of the story. So, in actuality, adding the fact that she's going in to test Lizzie and then see if she's actually right for Mr. Darcy actually kind of works for me because it's similar. It's not similar, but it's close enough to where we get her approval of their marriage kind of thing. Whereas in the book, she eventually becomes more agreeable to the marriage. All in all, the film is very fun and silly, which is actually going to depend on whether or not you can watch this. I know many people who don't like this adaptation because it's silly, and there's other people that actually do love this version, myself included. So it's going to depend on your taste. I guess in a way, this adaptation to me is what the 2005 version is for other people. I've seen the 2005 version many, many years ago, and I've only seen it once. And I distinctly remember I didn't like it. I didn't care for a lot of the choices they made. There was only maybe a handful of moments I remember and go back to watching, but as a whole, I don't care for that adaptation. And again, it would be similar to this one. This one takes liberties, but it's still Pride and Prejudice. So once again, it's going to depend on your outlook on things. However, once again, you got to remember the year it came out, 1940. Again, it was ride off the success of Gone with the Wind, so they wanted to make a period drama that kind of reflected Gone with the Wind, but still kept it Jane Austen, which was what was dealt with the costume changes. But at the same time, you got to remember too, the Great Depression was only several years before, so movies were meant to entertain, not to follow source material so that people can go, oh, this is nowhere near to the book. Back at that time, people wanted fun, emotional movies that could take them out of their troubles and put them in a world that they would want to be in. Pride and Prejudice is actually very relatable for that. The Bennets are not rich, but they live well enough to, like they said, they're middle class. So they live well enough, but they're not rich. They still attend balls, but they still have struggles. And then you have these guys that come in who are very rich, but they marry for love. So it works out for both. You marry for love, but you also get money. So it works out either way. It's just a really great story. But the way they do it, they made it more appealing for the audiences in 1940. Not only was the Great Depression literally several years before this, you literally had World War II that was just around the corner after this release date. So again, you got to look at the time period of when this came out and what the choices were when they made them. For a little bit more context, I would recommend Hamlet's Soliloquy. It's a blog run by this lady who is married and has kids, and she talks about this movie a little bit. And I highly recommend it because it's pretty enjoyable read. And that wraps up my review of the 1940 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this movie and what other requests would you like me to tackle. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Have a great and wonderful day.